So, welcome to the Karthik Gurunathan show, Austin.
Glad to be here.
Today's a Tuesday, right?
Today is Wednesday. Wednesday.
Oh, damn. How's your hump day looking?
Not bad. I had lab this morning. I had a class, and I was at work for the last few hours, and now I'm here with you. So it's a good day.
Dude, I love that. So, to my viewers, Austin is the president of the BodyBuilding And Fitness Club. Austin is a U.S. Army active duty
Veteran.
He's a veteran. And he's also a business person. He recently started his own singlets business, which is super interesting. And you've been in the U.S. Army for like 6 years, right?
I was in for 6 years from 2015 to 2021.
Wow. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you so much for your service. That's amazing. And you are a USAPL 100 kg.
I am, yeah. Power lifter. That means I compete in the 220-pound weight class for powerlifting.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah. That's awesome. So, dude, I'm super excited to talk to someone from the Army, and I'm super excited to talk to someone who has extraordinary physical credentials.
Oh, boy.
As yourself.
Being generous.
Yep. And no, I'm not. But yeah, here's the thing. I want to start out with your journey in the US Army.
Okay.
So how did that start out? How did you start out in the US Army?
So I joined the Army right after I graduated high school in 2015. I'm dating myself. I'm a little older. I'm 26 now, but I graduated high school in 2015, and I had been applying to colleges my senior year of high school, but they were a little expensive. I didn't want to. I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to do something else. I didn't want to go to college, and so I decided to enlist in the military. And so that's how I got started. I joined the military after high school. I was just a young kid who wanted to travel the world, and I got to do a little bit of that. So
I see. So you were in South Palm Beach, Florida, right?
Yep. I lived in Palm Beach before I graduated high school.
Nice. And that's where you essentially enlisted for the Army.
Correct. Yep.
Dude, that's super cool. So how did they choose you? Like, what did you have in you that sort of pushed you in?
I don't know, really. I mean, I was in pretty good shape graduating high school and going into the Army. I was on the football team. I was on the wrestling team.
Oh, wow.
And I started going to the gym my junior year of high school, so I was in pretty good shape. And I forget how you know what? No, I remember how I was eating lunch one day at school with my friends, and you'd see the army recruiters would come to the local high schools every now and then to try and like pitch kids the ideas of enlisting in the military.
Wow.
And so one day we were all eating lunch at the school table. One of the army recruiters comes up to the table and he's like, "Who wants to join the Army?" basically, or who's been thinking about it. And like I had tossed around the idea, and so he's like, "Okay, let's talk." And I talked to him, and he basically told me all about it. I told him what I wanted to do, and he helped me find the job I wanted to do, and yeah, that was it.
Oh, so you were sort of employed during your tenure in the Army as well, is it?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, well, like my job in the military. Yeah, so I was a military police officer, so I kind of that was my job in the Army per se.
Got it. So you knew what you wanted to do even before you sort of enlisted.
Exactly, I had an idea.
Dude, and you were what, like 17?
Yeah, I was a young kid.
Dude, yep. Wow. So what, your parents are veterans as well? Do you have folks in your family who are veterans?
So yeah, my dad was a veteran. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. And then my cousin was an Army Ranger, was a helicopter crew chief. And I think that's it. I think just my dad and my cousin, but they were both big inspirations and kind of definitely played a part into why I wanted to join the Army.
Got it. So high school physical fitness was an important thing.
Definitely.
Okay, I see. Wow. So you did this, and then you were in your senior year, and then you were like, "I'm going to enlist."
Yep.
And you came home, and you told your folks that you're going to enlist.
Yeah.
What was the reaction?
My mom was honestly supportive. It was just me and my mom and my sister growing up. Yeah, my mom was super supportive. She was all about it. You know, she's always been like, you know, do whatever you want to do whatever makes you happy.
Wow.
I didn't live with my dad growing up, but I had told him over the phone, and he was all for it too. He wanted me to go to college and be like a college D1 athlete, because he was a collegiate athlete when he was in school, but
oh wow,
he kind of understood that it wasn't for me, so he was supportive too, because, you know, he was in the military too, so.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you had a lot of individual inspiration when you were growing up, and obviously that sort of culminated into your enlistment. Dude, that's awesome. So tell me one thing. What does the Army look for? And I'm sure there is like a global model of recruitment, and
Definitely.
the United States is, of course, one of those parties. So what does the US Army look for? Does it look for mental strength or physical strength? Because I've talked to a few folks who are in the Army across the world, and they tend to say, you know, Army knows what they want. When they sort of talk to you, they sort of are able to look at your personality and be like, those are the personality traits I want.
Yeah.
Similar to most other job interviews, which is actually kind of very I don't understand how that works, because I always thought you need to go through this training regimen where you're taught to endure like a lot of mental and physical turbulence, and then you come out of that and you're like this shining knight in an armor.
Yeah.
But what was it like for you?
So that's honestly a really good question. I have friends who I used to be stationed with who are now Army recruiters. They went and did that as a job now. But I would say the Army is mainly looking for probably physical strength. I mean, I don't want to say neither matter. They're just looking for a warm body to fill a seat. I mean, that's the honest answer, but that's the no fun answer. I would say the military is looking for people who are capable of, you know, doing their job, because there's so many different jobs in the military in general. There's hundreds of different jobs across every single different field, and I'd say they're just looking for somebody who's, you know, somewhat healthy, just someone who can do their job. I think the mental side of it is not as important, which, you know, is, I don't want to say unfortunate, but it is what it is. But they're basically just looking for someone who can, you know, carry the load, carry the big heavy machine gun across the field, you know, all that sort of stuff. You don't meet a lot of brainiacs or a lot of scholars in the military, believe it or not.
You're an exception, right?
Oh, I don't know about that, maybe.
That's awesome. I hear you. I think that makes a lot of sense. So tell us more about where you served and what was the tenure of each sort of deployment.
Okay. I'll try not to ramble too much. I might ramble a little bit.
I definitely have questions, so I'll interrupt you.
Okay, cool. So when I left for basic training in July of 2015, I went to a military training base called Fort Leonard Wood, and that was in the middle of the Ozark Mountains in Missouri, which is Midwest center United States, and nothing around you but forest and mountains, literally middle of nowhere. So I was there for, I think, 21 weeks from end of July 2015 to about mid to late December of 2015 for 9 weeks of basic training, and then I believe it was 12 weeks of job training for my job, which was police officer.
Wow. Okay.
And then after,
and you knew, even at that stage, you knew that you wanted to. I mean, they were sure that you want to go into that police office.
Yeah. So before you ship out to go to basic, you're kind of your job is already determined for you, because you get to pick it in the Army. So the training base you go to is dependent upon which job you pick. So if I were to pick a different job in the military, like infantry, which is like, you know, the fighter guys on the front line, you would go to a different military base. There's one in Georgia. They train all the infantry, but Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri trains all the police officers. So it's kind of like different bases for each job, if that makes sense.
Got it. So And okay, so when you were sort of going there, you sort of knew you were going to do this, and you could divulge that piece of detail to your parents and things like that. Right?
Oh yeah. No, that's all. Like we all knew what I was going to do up before.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so you went there. It was a 10-week training.
Yeah, so 9 weeks of basic training, which was like the regular Army stuff, like, you know, breaking you down to build you up, and then after you're done with that, I had I think it was 11 weeks of specific job training where I learned how to be a police officer in the military, basically, which was you're learning how to do traffic stops, you're learning how to do DUI stops, you're learning how to write reports, how to investigate crime scenes, all the stuff you'd think of when you think of a police officer.
Got it.
So that was pretty cool. I like that. And then I graduated, and in January of 2016, I went to South Korea for a year as my first duty station. And that was a blast. I mean, oh man, I want to go back to South Korea so bad.
Wow. So you spent your entire fall of 2015 sort of doing the training,
yep.
And then you went in Jan 2016 to South Korea.
Yep.
And you knew you were going to be deployed to South Korea, is it?
So you find out where you're going about midway through training.
Okay.
So when I arrived to Fort Leonard Wood in July, I didn't know where I would be stationed after that. I'm kind of like, I could be in Germany, I could be in Korea, I could be in Japan, I could be in Italy, or I could be, in the United States. Like, there's plenty of bases in the United States I could be at. I came down on orders, a big group of us did, to go to South Korea. And so hopped on that plane in January and spent a year in South Korea. And
that was your first time to South Korea?
Oh yeah, it was my first time.
Dude, that's exciting. So this is you're just like this 17, 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what, let's go to South. So I understand where that comes from. Now, do you think you had sort of the responsibility to defend your nation as such? Because there's a lot of sort of tall rhetoric associated with going to the army, right?
Yeah.
But you were just a kid. I mean, you were just a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question, because at the end of the day, you think like, how are we trusting like these 18-year-old fresh out of high school kids to like defend the country, and do all these important jobs? I think that's a hard question to answer simply. I think, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Me personally, when I was 18 years old, when I was in South Korea, obviously when you're in South Korea, there's always been that threat of like, oh, what if North Korea attacks? What if something happens, stuff pops off? And we had drills we practiced when I was stationed in Korea. You'd have these drills like every month, like hypothetical situations of what would happen, and you'd go through what to do. So I felt well prepared and well trained. And I think that's also a product of, you also have really good leadership in the military. You have these guys who rank above you, have been in for a while, who make sure you're ready to go. So yeah, me personally, I felt good. I felt like I could defend my country. Obviously the same can't be extrapolated and said for the rest of the military.
Absolutely,
but me personally, I felt pretty.
No, I think I love that. So you're basically talking about a lot of people, and you're just sort of a minority, right, in terms of age group. There's a lot of folks who are like much older to you,
Absolutely.
who you essentially report to. Yeah. So when you were in Korea, you were a military police officer. Okay, awesome. And what did you do there? You were tell us more.
Sure. So I was stationed at a very large base in South Korea. It was called Camp Humphreys. It was about an hour south of Seoul, the capital of South Korea. And what I did is I did regular police stuff that you think of just on military property. You couldn't go off military property because we didn't have jurisdiction, obviously, in South Korea. We had jurisdiction on the American piece of soil in South Korea. And so I would work 12-hour shifts. Maybe it's from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m., 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I would get in my little police car, my patrol car, and I'd have my Korean augmentee with me, my Korean soldier, because I need a translator, right, because I was in South Korea. And we would ride around together. You would respond to different calls. You would do community policing. You'd interact with the public. It was fun. And outside of work, it was super fun. I tried to get around and travel as much as I could, for an 18-year-old.
When you were in the army? Oh, yeah. In Korea? You can do that?
Oh, yeah. We went to Seoul quite a few times.
Dude, wow. Okay.
I didn't, like, some people I knew traveled. They went to the Philippines. They went to, like, Thailand. They went to Japan. You can go on vacations because you have leave days, right? So you have 30 leave days you're allotted every year. And, I wanted to go travel, and a lot of people do when they get stationed overseas. They go travel to the other countries because it's cheap when you're already over there. Mainly I just explored Korea itself. I went to Seoul a lot. I loved spending time in Seoul, but we would go out. We would explore the nightlife a lot, which was fun because obviously I think the drinking age they don't care in South Korea. They'll serve you. They don't care. But I got to go to like the nightclubs in Korea. I got to see all the downtown. Like, oh my gosh, it was awesome. I want to go back one day.
Dude, that's amazing. So you So you're talking about these 30 days essentially that you used to sort of travel around in the first year essentially. And when you said you were part of, you were a police officer in American soil, you would still sort of operate, you would still transact with Korean civilians, right?
Exactly.
So you would need a translator who sort of translates, and you basically talk to them and you give them DUIs and things like that.
Yeah, basically, and I'm still best friends with one of my translators to this day.
Wow.
He was a great guy. His name's his name's Don Ho Son. He probably will never. I don't know if he'll ever see this. I hope he does. But his name is Don Ho Son. He's fantastic. One of my best friends still to this day. But yeah, you'd have your Korean counterpart with you, because you'd have Korean nationals and Korean contractors and civilians come on base to work, to do whatever. And yeah, you need to talk to them. And obviously, I can't speak Korean, but having that guy there with me helped. But yeah, there'd be. We had shoplifting. We had domestics. We had all sorts of stuff. But
so you were a officer of the law in Korea, and you would essentially have to sort of read up Korean laws and things like that as well, right? To some extent.
Yeah. So it was interesting. We mainly, obviously, the American soldiers were well versed on like military law, American law, and the not the traffic stops, the stuff we did on base was mainly in violation of federal laws. And I think if there are any Korean applicable laws, we leave that to the Korean National Police, the KNP, or the Korean soldiers we were with. But yeah, it was interesting. I had to learn a lot about Korean culture and stuff, which was great. I love doing it,
Dude, that's awesome. So you interacted quite a bit with the average Korean civilian, essentially, and the Korean military personnel as well. That makes a lot of sense. And then you spent your 1 year sort of learning things, and then you got promoted to the chief DEI officer.
Yeah, so that's something that wasn't the actual title. I put that on LinkedIn to help spruce my LinkedIn. Okay. But that's basically here we'll come back, but that's the military has something called a SHARP program, was the sexual harassment and assault response and prevention, I think. And I trained people on that in my unit. But yeah, because you learn about but yeah, that was it. That's I civilianized that term and made it sound fancy so it would look better on my LinkedIn and my resume.
No, I like that. So I think that's awesome. And you did this for 2.5 years, right? 3 years.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of. So I spent that year in Korea, and then I did 4.5 years in Washington D.C.
Okay.
But yeah, I did a little bit of that, so that was fun.
Got it. So for that year, you were the soldier of the year for all United States Armed Forces in South Korea. Dude, that's huge.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So you're talking about what, like 10,000 people?
Probably, yeah.
And you were like the best soldier.
Best in it was the 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Brigade, if I remember that correctly.
Okay.
So it was a brigade-sized element. But yeah, I was soldier of the quarter, and then I ended up getting soldier of the year, which was pretty cool.
Dude, that's insane. So what did you do?
So I basically, there's these things in the army, at least, they're called boards. And there's soldier of the month, there's non-commissioned officer of the month, there's officer of the month. And I went to a soldier of the month board for my company, which is you go there in your dress uniform, and they basically ask you a bunch of questions. It's basically like a quiz almost. It's weird. They ask you a bunch of really intense questions. You have to sit there perfectly still, like military bearing, can't break your professionalism. And so I went to one, I won that. Then I ended up going to a battalion soldier of the quarter board, which is I compete against a bunch of other companies. I won that one. So then I went to the brigade soldier of the quarter board, and that was at the end of the fiscal year. And I won the brigade soldier of the quarter board, and so I ended up being, for that fiscal year, the soldier of the year for that. So that was
Got it. So you won these 3 boards, and that sort of culminated into
and basically all I did was study my butt off and answer a bunch of questions about the military.
I love that. That's really cool.
It was interesting.
And you were at the peak of your physical fitness all through this, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. When I was like 18, 19 back then, I was probably about like 30 pounds lighter than I am now, and I could run like a horse. It was a good time. I was in great physical shape back then.
Wow, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So and then you shifted to Virginia.
Yep, and then I got stationed in Arlington, Virginia at the Old Guard for 4 years.
At the Old Guard. Okay.
At the Old Guard.
Got it. What did you do there?
There you go. Oh man, the Old Guard has a really, really interesting mission. So, have you ever heard of Arlington National Cemetery?
Yes, I've been there. Yeah.
Okay, well there you go. And you see the guy like walking in front of the tomb, guarding it, like changing the guard. So, so I'm not gonna. I didn't do that. I was stationed at that unit, but I didn't do that. My friends did. But they have a small military base there next to the cemetery called Fort Myer, and so my police company was stationed there, and I did a little bit of everything while I was there. I was a military police officer. I still had that, so I still did my patrols. I was a 911 dispatcher for I think a little over a year, because obviously the military, when they have the police officers, you need the 911 dispatchers, the emergency. So I did that, and then we did our regular ceremonies because we were the Old Guard, so we would all march in our uniforms with our rifles or whatever. What else? I did a lot there. I'm trying to think.
You did recruitment as well, right?
Yeah, I did recruitment for. What do you got down there?
So you say something called Joint Operations Staff and Sensitive Personal Measures for 3 military institutions.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that's when I was working the NCIC VESN desk. We had 3 military. We had Fort Myer, we had Fort McNair, and we had Henderson Hall, and those were the 3 bases that we covered, we were responsible for. And when I was working the desk, we would basically be in charge of the security and everything that went on these 3 bases, and kind of make sure everything was okay on these bases, and everyone was kind of, because when we were in Arlington, which is next to the Pentagon, next to DC, so you have a bunch of generals and like really high ranking military officers, tens of them, if not hundreds of them, living on these bases. So we kind of had to make sure that all the safety, emergency response, security measures were all in place for that, for them.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you sort of enjoyed South Korea more so than Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was tough being away from the United States, right? Being away from my family and friends.
Yeah.
But I mean, oh man, yeah, I'd never experienced any other culture than American culture in my first 18 years, right? And so going and experiencing a new one was phenomenal. And, I can't wait to travel again once I'm out of college, but.
Dude, I love that. So I, right before talking to you, I thought it would be a very sort of morbid discussion about, oh my God, I was in this active war zone and it was like hell, but I'm happy to be back here.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see that a lot of people who are like 18, 17 want to take up the army because it's actually quite a bit of a learning experience.
Definitely.
It's quite fun as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you spent a few years at Virginia, and while you were there, you had a few response missions for DoD as well, right?
Yeah. That was basically almost that same job. Is that like? So I was when you're in, DC and you're in Arlington, Virginia, that's like the center of everything with American politics, American military, American everything.
Yeah.
And as part of the Old Guard and as part of the police company there, we had missions where we had to do security for the president and like the vice president and other politicians. That was pretty fun. What else did we do? It's been years, but yeah, we did security missions for them. I was working the desk for a while, kind of helping out with all the security and safety for all those missions. But yeah, I mean, it was super fun.
Got it. And you essentially had to so you had like a reporting structure just like any other company.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So you had someone you report to. So what's the hierarchy like? Tell me a little more about that.
Sure. So when I was in DC at this time, I was a sergeant for most of my time there, which is a non-commissioned officer, so I had a little bit of authority. I was kind of a little bit more responsibility than I did when I was a young private in Korea. So my reporting structure kind of went to military side, because I worked with the military and the civilian side. But military side, it would go me, then it would go to my platoon sergeant, then it would go to my first sergeant and company commander, and then would go to the battalion commander and so on. Civilian side, when we I worked police and law enforcement stuff, you'd basically just have the chief of police, and the chief of police report to the director of emergency services, and he would report to the base commander or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a typical hierarchy you'd see in any company.
Got it. Yeah. So you had two of these reporting structures, one civilian and one sort of
exactly.
Military. Okay, nice. And your military the communication with your military is going to be much more regimented, where you essentially gotta respect them, call them something and things like that. But your civilian thing was just hey, this is what I'm doing, let's catch up. Was it like that, or?
A little bit, yes, because the civilians I worked with, it was still involved in DOD, so it was still a little bit of Department of Defense, a little bit of rigidity.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, with military, you have to address your superior officers by their rank. You had to be respectful, stand at the position of attention when you talk to them if it was something formal. But yeah, military side, if I'm still talking to the chief of police, the watch commander or whatever, you still want to be respectful, but it's not I don't have to address them by their rank or anything. So it was a little different. Yeah. And
you had other kids sort of report to you as well. You were by this time you were, I'm guessing, 19, 20.
Yeah, so I was 20, 21. I was a sergeant, so I was in charge of people at that point, and that was definitely a learning experience too, because I was a very young leader, and I probably didn't have the leadership abilities that I have now super fleshed out. So yeah, I probably had, I think, 5 soldiers reporting to me at any given time.
Got it. And these are privates?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, got it. And you were a sergeant, and right above you there is the what's the person who you report to?
Platoon sergeant.
Platoon sergeant.
Yep, and they were an E7. They were a sergeant first class or a staff sergeant.
Got it. I hear you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And right after this, you went to what's that place? Washington Commanders.
Washington Commanders. Yeah.
And that is separate from your Virginia mission, right?
Yeah. It was a really funny story. I spent about a little over half a year with them. When I was getting ready to get medically retired from the Army, they have a special program where if you're getting ready to transition out of the military, you can apply for it, and then you can go, if it's approved, you can go work for a Fortune 500 company for your last, year or so in service. So that time when I was working for the Washington Commanders, I was technically still in the military, but I didn't report to my unit or anything. They had signed papers basically releasing me to go work for the Washington Commanders while my retirement stuff was being processed.
Okay, I see.
It's interesting. It's complicated.
And okay, got it. And then you spent 1 year working for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, it was about 8 months, I'd say.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a good time. That was awesome. It was during COVID, which kind of sucked.
Oh.
I didn't get to go to the football field or anything.
Damn it.
But I still got to do a lot of cool stuff, even if it was virtual. Got to sit in on meetings with the head football coach there, Ron Rivera. Okay. Got to help design, marketing and outreach strategies with my boss, Alec. It was awesome.
They knew you were a veteran at that point, right?
Yeah, so they knew I was still active duty, and they knew that I just had to get papers signed, and that I was basically, I belonged to the Washington Commanders for 8 months instead of the military.
Fair enough.
It was interesting.
So, I had this other question about the military. So, a lot of folks who sort of graduate from the military, right, they don't realize how much of their life gets sort of structured because of the military.
Oh, yeah.
And people, they start doing these things that are quite... they're good for in the long run, essentially, that other people don't do. They essentially get up at 5 a.m. and things like that, and then they like to arrange their clothes, and you have these stereotypes around you, right?
Yeah.
So what was life like those 6 years that you served? What did you do on a day-to-day basis? Did it involve heavy regimentation?
Yeah, I mean, I would... that's a good observation and good viewpoint, because I attribute the military to helping me be so successful in college so far, and hopefully my future endeavors. But when you're out of basic training, out of job training, as you move up through the ranks, you have more responsibility for yourself. You're not going to have people kind of looking after you and making sure you're doing the right thing. You kind of have to develop your own sort of regimen and structure to make sure you're successful. And so that's kind of what I did. I would make sure, I have all my stuff ready to go, make sure I'm in the right place at the right time, in the right uniform. That's like a big thing in the military. And so that kind of structure and that regimentation that I had for 6 years of making sure I was always doing the right thing, to the best of my ability, doing everything correctly, I'd say is definitely one of the things I took away from the military that helped me a lot.
I see. And do you honestly live in a situation where you're like lonely, or do you have people around you? Is it like regular life? So if I come to college here, I can make friends with anybody I want. Is it like that
in the military?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. The military is like literally, it's a stereotype. It's like a giant brotherhood, but it literally is. I mean, it is. You serve with those guys, you do everything together, you eat together, you sleep together if you're in the same tent when you're in the field, or in the same barrack rooms, and you work together, and you make, I would probably have some of these friends from the military be my best friends for my whole life.
Okay.
So yeah,
fair enough.
You make friends usually with the people that you are with in your team, in your squad, in your unit.
Got it. That's amazing. So
yeah.
that's another stereotype broken right there.
Yeah.
And so much of your life was sort of tied to the military. It's not like you would come back home during your vacation and be like, hey, let's call the boys to play FIFA. That was not how things were, right?
Believe it or not, because like I said, we have 30 days of vacation every year, so I got to go home for back to Florida for spring break, for winter break. No, when I was home, I saw my high school friends, and we all got together, and it was awesome.
Okay.
Seeing everyone kind of, catching up after a few years. But it kind of is like when you go on leave, when you use your vacation in the military, it kind of is like an escape from that military bubble. When you're at the duty station doing the same job every day, you're able to leave for 2 weeks and kind of escape that life for 2 weeks. I wanted to act like I wasn't in the military for 2 weeks, so it was nice. It was nice to be able to separate for a few weeks every year.
I hear you. So you did have a life outside as well?
Yeah, definitely. You have to, so you don't go crazy, right?
I hear you.
You can't drink too much of the crazy juice of the Kool-Aid,
I hear you. That's really cool. And how many workouts did you have per day? Was it like when you trained, when you went to South Korea, and when you came back to Washington?
Sure.
Yeah.
So every day in the military, besides usually weekends or days you're just off, like holidays, you have something called physical training usually in the morning, like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. So my workouts were every working day, which is usually 5 days a week, and you alternate. One day is going to be a run day, so you're either running for 5 to 7 miles, or you're doing strength training circuits like push-ups, pull-ups, core work. And then also I supplemented the gym on top of that at the time, because I love the gym to this day. I loved it back then, so I would do my mandatory military workouts every day, and then I would go to the gym too, and that's why I was in such great shape.
Okay, and there'd be someone who sort of led you into these workouts.
Yeah, in the physical training, yeah, you'd have someone in charge of that.
Dude, I love that. So when it comes to lazy people like me, right? So I'm very lazy.
Okay.
And that sort of helps me a lot with a lot of things in life, because I get to solve problems quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't get to. I have to solve problems quickly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to physical fitness, right? I feel like having someone who sort of screams at you helps a lot.
Yeah.
Dude, some of the times that I've gotten most fit are basically times where I was made fun of as, being called fat and things like that. That helps a lot too. We should bring, no, I'm just kidding. So I think that helped me a lot. And I'm not one to talk too much about fitness. I've had very little overlap with that. But I've tried very hard to be fit. Yeah. I'll tell you that much. I've tried a lot. It just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And you said you medically retired the last year, right?
Yeah. So I was, I got medically retired after about 5.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and after Washington Commanders, you just decided to pack your bags and come home, is it?
I actually decided to come to Penn State, where I am today.
So you applied while you were in Washington Commanders?
Exactly. So because I was getting ready to get retired from the military, and the Washington Commanders was just a fellowship. They didn't have a full-time position for me after the fellowship was over. So I'm like, okay, well, now I have the educational benefits where I can go to college for free now. The military will pay for it. They got the GI Bill. And so I applied to Penn State, and been here for the last two odd years.
Dude, but you're a Florida kid, right?
I am a Florida kid.
New Hampshire and Massachusetts kid. Right?
Yep, there you go. Born in Massachusetts, lived in New Hampshire till I was 8, and then lived in Florida from 8 to 18. So kind of.
Where does Penn State fit into all of this?
Oh, that's a funny story. So when I was still living in Arlington, some of the kids I was stationed with and that I met were from this area in Pennsylvania. We're from a town called Lock Haven, which is about 45 minutes away. And I ended up dating a girl who was friends with one of my buddies from Lock Haven. And at the time, the way the timeline was working is I was with this girl over a year at this point. She lived in Williamsport, which is about an hour from here. And we basically were talking about like, okay, well, what am I going to do when I get out of the Army? And I'm like, why not go to school? And so I'm like, oh, I'll just go to Penn State. That's near where you live. I can go to school and we'll like move in together or something. And then about like a few weeks after I found out I was accepted to Penn State, we unfortunately broke up. Stuff happens. But
damn.
I'm like, well, but first I was like, I didn't think I was ever going to get accepted to Penn State because I wasn't the smartest kid, But once I said, independent of this girl I just broke up with, I want to go to Penn State because it's an awesome school. So that's kind of the connection there.
Got it. And this was August 2021, right?
Oh man, I think you're right on that. I think I got accepted to Penn State. Yeah, August or September of 2021. At my first semester was January
22
of 22. Nope, January. Okay, so subtract a year. August of 2020. Start at January 2021.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So spring of 2021, you come into Penn State. You come into University Park.
Yep.
And you basically know nobody.
Nobody. I came here. I didn't know a single soul. Legitimately, no one.
And you were kind of you've served in the Army. You've seen more than the average freshman. Right?
Yeah.
So how was life like?
It was interesting. It's college is kind of not what I thought it would be, but not in a bad way.
Okay.
I thought this sounds like bad, but I thought it'd be a lot more difficult than it was. And it's not. I feel like. And that's why I was talking about earlier when I said I kind of give a lot of credit to the military for preparing me and maturing me and that regimentalization. I don't know if that's a word, helping me, but like I always when I went to my first couple classes, my first semester here, and I'm like, these kids are strong. Like kids would be talking about how they're already like failing class and so behind. And I'm like, the assignments we had were so easy. It took maybe an hour. You had to type a 3-page paper, and that's the end of the world for you. Your parents are paying tens of thousands of dollars for you to go here, and you're flunking like an elective.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, college has been very good just because the military has helped me prioritize my work and realize that I am solely responsible for my success or failure. Nobody else is. And I feel like that's a motivating factor. It's like, if I fail something, I don't have anybody else to blame but me.
Yeah.
It's on me. And so I came here and I hit the ground running. I don't think I've gotten all A's these past 2 years, which is nice. And then, yeah, I came here. I didn't know a single soul. But I started going to the gym here locally. I made friends through the gym.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I made my first group of friends. And then I ended up meeting a girl like 1 month after I started here, and we dated for a little over a year, and I made friends with all of her friends. So kind of like everything's sort of like spreading out. But most of my friends, even still 2 years later, are through like the fitness community here at Penn State.
Wow.
And I mean, I came here 2 years ago, didn't know anybody. And then a year and a half later, I'm the president of the 800-person bodybuilding club. So
wow.
It's crazy. It's funny how stuff works.
It is crazy. But you know what I really like about the state college fitness community? I think that's the case with Penn State in general as well. I feel like people are like, I have gone to gyms and I've seen people who are like insane, dude.
Absolutely.
Like yourself included. But the thing is, I mean, so you know they're doing something. I mean, I've seen a lot of people sort of not at all struggle. Like I see that, dude, I'm like the only person struggling. I go
That's
there
okay.
and dude, I basically need to pull up this YouTube video on how to do, I don't know, like
like any exercise.
Literally.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's how bad it is. So I was trying to do chest. Oh God, I don't know the name.
Yeah.
It's basically a pull exercise that you do for your chest.
Like a chest supported row or like a chest fly or something.
It's a chest fly.
Chest fly, yeah. Whatever. Yeah,
so It's a chest fly, and I didn't know how to do it. Like, that's the thing. So I have been going on and off to the gym to essentially do nothing, and I've been doing this for like 6 years in my life because I mean, I come from a community. I come from a background where fitness is not the greatest thing, and to me, the American gym culture was like quite shocking. I was just like, wow, this is really cool. And I'll tell you one thing, when I started sort of going to the gym in Penn State, I kind of felt very welcome. I could go to people and be like, so I do this even now. I go to people and I'm like, what are you doing? What's that exercise called? And then I sort of note it down, and
and that's how you get better, and that's how you get good, is from learning from other people. Everyone knows something you don't.
And people are so generous. They're not guarded with their wisdom or whatever. And I see one thing, like their forms are like, I mean, I'm sure it's like there's nothing called perfection, but I sort of I see how in terms of their movements, it's very measured. It's like you see that rhythm in their form. And I'm like, dude, how do you do that? Like, when I'm so lopsided when I do it. I think it's a matter of practice, right?
Absolutely. Practice makes perfect.
And I think the average American kid through high school goes through like, I don't know, from like 7th grade, you guys have like gym, right?
Gym class,
Gym class. And that sort of puts you,
builds a foundation.
Pretty much everything, right? Dude, that's amazing. That's like amazing. I think, is that how you started sort of building your thing?
Yeah, I would say, and also from doing like sports when you're younger too, you know, because I was on the football team, but I didn't play. I was like I was a bench warmer, you know, because a lot of the guys ahead of me were like big, strong, athletic, and I'm like, I want to be big, strong, and athletic, and so that's why I started working out, because I want to be big, strong, and athletic. But,
so was there like a sense of camaraderie with your with the people who actually played? Or was it like a comparison thing?
No, I feel like it was a sense of camaraderie. We were all one team, you know. We were like brothers. I still talk to the people I played high school football with, you know, 8 years later.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that. I think that's a very American thing, and credit where it's due, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you came to Penn State. You started with HR management here, and you've been here. I mean, you're graduating in like 2.5 years, right?
Yeah. I did online college for 2 years when I was in the Army, which was great. So I came here only needing 2 more years for my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So I'm graduating here in about 5 weeks.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so now I want to shift topics a little bit and go into your bodybuilding career. Okay. Cool. So you started lifting at what age?
I think I first got into the gym when I was about 15 or 16 years old in high school.
Okay. Oh, in high school, and you were already in perfect shape by then, is what you're saying?
I was in okay shape.
Okay.
I don't think I got into really good shape until probably my senior year of high school, or like my first couple years in the military.
Got it. And how, like, when you lift, right, it's not essentially only just lifting. It's also like your diet and your sleep.
It's lifestyle, absolutely.
So you were too young to sort of take care of all of that. So what did you do with that?
I ate chicken and rice in high school. I was big on the diet in high school. I was learning from like YouTube videos of like the best things to eat. I definitely didn't know back then, but I know now. But I still was, you know, eating all the bodybuilder meals, the peanut butter, the chicken and rice, the potatoes. I was eating all of that in high school and in the military too. But that's definitely why I had such a good foundation built from such a young age. Got it.
And I'm guessing that's why you got selected in the military as well, right?
I mean, I'm sure it helped me, you know, because I was in such good shape. I probably stood a little bit above, you know, some of my other peers just because of physical ability.
I hear you. And that's just between 15 and 17, right?
That was between, it's been since then, but it was all the way into my military too, into the military career too.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. And now tell me a little more about, so you're obviously the president of the Bodybuilding and Fitness Club, and you're a powerlifter as well.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of people like me who are kind of noobs in fitness. We are not subject matter experts in fitness.
Okay.
We don't do fitness.
Yeah.
To me, and the definition of fitness has sort of changed since I came to the US. I've become a little more cognizant of, okay, I need to be able to bench this much, or I need to be able to squat this much, and I think that's important, right?
I mean, I'd say progress is all relative. Your only real competition is yourself, you know? Like, I always preach to people, and I think I've talked about this before in a bodybuilding club meeting before, but it's hard. The gym is kind of tough in college because I feel like you're always comparing yourselves to others, and what we see on social media, it's like, oh, I should be squatting 3 plates. I should be deadlifting 5 plates.
Yeah.
but it's all about what you can do. People only post the best of the best on social media, so you're always comparing yourself to the best of the best. You just gotta focus on what you can do.
So when you started out, you did not have an end goal in mind, is it? You were not like, in 9 months I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be like this. It was never like that.
Never like that.
It was not for the girls, it was not for the fame.
I'm sure it was for the girls. I probably you ask like 16-year-old Austin, I'm sure he'd tell you it's for the girls.
Got it.
But I mean, honestly, I think it's just, back then, I think it's just because I want to be in better shape and I want to be, more I want to be more attractive, because when you're a teenager, you want to be attractive, right? But now that I'm like 26, I think it's just a lifestyle at this point. When you've been going to the gym constantly for like 8 or 9, 10 years, it's like, you're not going to stop, it's your whole life.
Fair enough. Yeah, so, that makes sense. Sense. So I think that's very cool. So if you're talking about the motivation sort of just being, I don't care about what the end result is. I just want to do this.
Exactly.
And you sort of build a lifestyle around that, right? Mm-hmm. Dude, that's so difficult for me to emulate.
Yeah.
That is so difficult.
That's okay.
So what do you think of consistency? Do you think it's important?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said consistency wasn't important. If you're kind of like, willy-nilly, go to the gym, every now and then, it's like it's only 2 days 1 week, it's 1 day another week, it's 4 days another week. And then if you're not like being careful of what you eat, let's say I go hit a great chest workout, but then I go eat like 3,000 calories worth of McDonald's, you're not going to see the gains you could be seeing. You're not going to realize your full potential, So I would say consistency is pretty important.
Got it. And we are talking consistency in diet, in sleep, and workout.
Absolutely, all three.
Is there anything else in terms of overall fitness? Because you've been doing this forever, so
yeah. I would say consistency in your workouts, diet. Consistency in diet is a really big thing. I'm guilty of this. Is that I'll eat clean all week, then on the weekends I'll drink a lot. I'll have a few beers, and I'll go and get late night halal cart, or I'll go to Sheets or something. So like. They call it dieting for the weekend, I think, is when you eat healthy all week, and then you think you can eat junk food on the weekend because you've earned it, but you're not going to make as much progress as you could be making.
Got it.
So consistency is very important in diet. Sleep is really important for recovery and muscle building.
Okay.
And that's hard in college, and it's hard when you're younger because you have a lot of late nights and a lot of early mornings, a lot of a lot of all-nighters because, you got projects or papers or, anything due. As far as anything else outside of those three, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Just make sure your training is consistent. I would say another thing is make sure you can control the variables of stress as consistently as you can.
Okay.
Like, life happens. You're gonna have days that are way more stressful than others. But if you can be in control of your mind, your mental consistency, I think that helps you a lot too.
Awesome. No, I love that. So my biggest takeaway from this is you look at fitness not as a goal, but as a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So you're doing this for the long run. And I love that. No, I think that's something that I should really think about.
Yeah.
So now when you talk about your diet, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy to meal prep.
No.
Right? Yeah. And I spend like 16 hours in school. I don't like spending time at home.
Yeah.
So I just spend a lot of time in school. So do you meal prep? What's your meal statistics like?
Yeah, so I don't meal prep like some people meal prep an entire week's worth of meals.
Yeah.
Like Sunday afternoon, Sunday night is reserved just for meal prepping the entire week. I don't do that.
Okay.
I usually meal prep for a day in advance.
Okay.
I used to do a few days in advance when I was like working a lot when I was in the Army, but now today I had work, so I meal prepped my lunch yesterday. I made chicken and rice for lunch for work today. Usually meal prep will just be like the day before, or I might, prepare breakfast the night before to heat it up in the morning if it's something simple. But yeah, I mean, for me, I just meal prep, literally I'm chicken and rice, ground turkey and rice, chicken and broccoli and potatoes, like pretty bland, boring stuff. But
you eat bland, boring stuff?
I eat bland, boring stuff.
Oh my God, dude.
I know, I'm the worst.
And you're like okay with that? Like you don't have any problems with that?
I'm used to it at this point. I put my barbecue sauce on there for a little bit of flavor, and that just gets me through it.
Fair enough. That's very interesting. I like that. No, I like that because Indians, we tend to have a lot of flavor.
I know Indian food is delicious.
We love flavor, so we try very hard to sort of get all of the flavor in one meal, and that's impossible. Like I crave food, good food good food that reminds me of home. When I eat meals that are bland, like chicken and rice or whatever. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Now I also want to ask you one thing. So if there's a kid who's like kind of fit but not exactly there, 15, 16, do you think so did you see yourself becoming a powerlifter when you were 15, 16, 17?
No, I didn't see myself you could have asked me that question 2 years ago and I would have told you no. I only started powerlifting a year ago.
So what's the difference between your normal workout regime and your powerlifting?
So that's a great question. So powerlifting, so there's 3 events that you get judged on powerlifting. It's the back squat, it's the bench press, and it's the deadlift. In powerlifting, you are training those movements every single day you work out. And you're doing some secondary other movements like, leg press or like the chest fly to get a little bit of other movement in there. But powerlifting, you're training those movements or variations of those 3 movements every day you work out. Before I started powerlifting, I was doing bodybuilding. Bodybuilding, you don't do that. You have more freedom in the movements and the exercises you choose. It's not just a squat day, a bench day, or a deadlift day. You might be hitting a chest day, a back day, a leg day, a shoulder day, an arm day, a pull day, a push day. You can incorporate all sorts of different movements into one workout, whereas powerlifting, you kind of had to stick to those core 3 movements of squat, bench, deadlift.
Got it. And so at some point in your 2-year tenure at Penn State, you were just like, I'm not going to be like generalizing, I'm going to specialize in these 3 things, and you just started doing those 3, is it?
Yeah, basically. It's because so East Coast, the gym I go to here in the State College area, there's a lot of powerlifters there. And so like they kind of like made me want to start it. They're all like, they're all moving crazy weight, super heavy weight. I'm like, I want to move super heavy weight. And so I started doing that. But yeah, it's awesome now. I love it now.
Dude, I love that. So I love that. So you're saying ideally people should sort of start out with a bodybuilding scheme in mind, where you say I want to do PPL, I want to start out with a push day, I want to do 6 exercises, like that, and then slowly push towards a power lifting kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I would say you can start with powerlifting. You can start with anything. I think as long as you start with learning the fundamentals and the basics. And I feel like bodybuilding will help you do that a bit more than powerlifting, because powerlifting, you're kind of already pigeonholing yourself into these 3 lifts. Whereas bodybuilding, you can, like you said, you can go and find that wide range and array of exercises. You can go ask people about the exercises they're doing, and you can learn a lot and build up that book. And I feel like because I was bodybuilding for 6-7 years before I started powerlifting, I have this really big book and knowledge built up in my brain about gym and movement in general, that when I transitioned to powerlifting, I kind of had that knowledge already. But I say bodybuilding will definitely help you build that base and that knowledge.
Got it. So you are very cognizant about what muscle group you're working on, or what muscle gets activated while you're doing something. Okay, I've seen so many people at Penn State with that niche knowledge, and it sort of pisses me off because not because it doesn't piss me off that they have the knowledge. It pisses me off that I don't understand any of it, because it just seems like a different language to me, and I've done it for a reasonable amount of time at this point. Again, I feel like consistency is the key. So what I do with this is, because I sort of have issues with I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Should I be dirty bulking? Should I be cutting? I don't know. So I hire a trainer. I shell out cash, and I'm like, hey, so I'm going to offload this duty to you, so you just do it for me times. But you were like 15 when you started. How did you know what you had to do? Were you just lean and you're like, I need to bulk? Back then, those were the days of you just watch YouTube videos of other dudes working out, and you learn from that. Back when I was 15, 16, even up until I was probably like 21 or 20, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just doing the movements. I was doing the bro workouts, Oh, wow. Okay.
But I learned from my friends. I learned from mainly YouTube, honestly, and like famous bodybuilders that were well accomplished. That's kind of how I learned. Yeah. No,
I love that. So at some point in Penn State, right, you were doing HR and you were like, I'm going to start a singlets business.
Oh boy, yeah. That's relatively new. That business is I'd say it's about 6 to 8 months old now. But it's like my whole life now. It consumes my like entire
That's
free
how
time.
long you've been the president, right?
Basically, yeah. That's basically the same time frame as when I became president, is when I started the singlet business. And for your listeners who might not know, the singlet, the powerlifting singlet, is what the powerlifters have to wear in competitions.
And a bunch of these fancy folks come to the gym as well wearing that, right?
Yep.
So you started this business, and how's it been going?
It was slow at first, but now it's crazy. It's to the point where I'm sending and receiving packages almost every day, and I probably have a few $1,000s moving through, my bank account every month, just from like buying singlets that I'm finding through other people and reselling them. But it's great. I just hit 1,000 followers on Instagram. That's all organic. No bot followers, no nothing. That's just from building a loyal customer base. But it's awesome. It's great.
I love that. And that's 6 months, right? 8 months since
6 to 8 months. I forget when exactly it started, but yeah.
Dude, that's nice, baby. That's a really good baby.
It's great.
I also want to ask you about, so you go to East Coast, right? You go to East Coast Fitness. That I've never been there.
Yeah.
But I want to know a little more about what you think. Do you think people should be assigning times to themselves, saying, I should be working out every day at like 7 a.m.? Do you do that to yourself? Or do you just, you're just like, I just need to hit a workout.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't care about the rest.
I mean, ideally, I'd love to say, you need to block off time every day to go to the gym or to be active. But I mean, that's just not realistic for a good amount of people, because a lot of people are busy. A lot of people have really demanding schedules. So like, I'd like to say, try and block off at least an hour or two every day to do something, get active, get movement in you, because movement is medicine. Movement is health.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me personally, part of that regimentation is I have my schedule kind of laid out every single day, and every single day I train 4 days a week. I always make sure I have time blocked off for my training.
Okay, you train 4 days a week.
Yes.
Okay, and how did you come up with this number? Why is it not 6 or 3?
My coach. I see.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your secret.
Yeah.
So you have a coach, and you offload most of this mental work to that person.
Yeah, and he's phenomenal. His name's Logan Sharp. Maybe he'll listen to this. Logan is phenomenal.
Shout out to
you.
He's
He's a Penn State grad. He graduated last year.
Oh wow.
Really smart guy. I think he has like around 20 clients.
Okay.
Phenomenal guy. Does my programming for me. Writes my workouts for me. Gives me
your diets and things like that.
Doesn't do my diets for me. I do my diet personally, just because I'm pretty well aware of what I need to eat and not eat. But I am thinking about hiring a nutrition coach, which I might do just to even, take more stress off me, because why not? Tell me what I need to eat,
I hear you.
Yeah.
And when you do this, right, he plans his workouts, what does he ask you? Is he like, I want to know your goals. What are your goals in like 3 months? Because when people ask me things like that, right, I don't know what to say. I just say, I don't know. I don't have goals.
Yeah. I mean, so for me personally, is that I had a prior relationship with Logan. He was a good friend of mine for many months before he became my coach. But I think in general, with any, trainer, coach, trainee, student relationship, communication is obviously the most important thing. They need to find out what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what movements you prefer, what you don't prefer, what has worked for you in the past and what hasn't. And Logan asked me those same questions when he became my coach, and any good trainer will ask their client, what do you like doing in the gym? What movements have worked for you in the past? What don't you like and what hasn't worked for you? And build from there. Lean into your strengths to build yourself. And when you're at a good level, then maybe start addressing those weaknesses. But any good coach or any good trainer will definitely flesh those out for you.
I see. No, I love that. No, that's so cool. I think going forward, it's sort of very important for most of us early 20 folks to sort of invest in a coach and sort of have them forever, because it's not like we're going to get poorer, right? We're fine. We're going to be earning a decent living. We can just let a part of our budget.
And it doesn't have to be expensive either.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And I think that's perfect. And I think I should do that. I should invest in a good coach.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, you take care of this. And you do this despite your academic stress, despite your sort of social life and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to end this podcast with a message from you to the BBAF community.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not a part of the BBAF community because I don't consider myself in any way. I'm just let's just say I'm a third party viewer of fitness, and that's
Okay,
about
and
it.
that's fine. Whatever you want.
I lift very rarely, and
Yeah.
I get I mean, it's very enjoyable to lift. I'll tell you that much. There's a lot of release of dopamine and things like that.
Yep.
But I don't do it very often.
Yep.
Maybe I should. But here's the thing. What's your message to people who have not yet started? Who are not very consistent lifters, or who are they just don't know how to lift? How do you want to have them in BBAF?
I would say the biggest thing is that the Bodybuilding and Fitness Club at Penn State, and I think any fitness group you want to join, is open to anyone. And I think what holds a lot of people back is they think that they are not on the same level as the people in the group, or maybe the members in that group won't be accepting of them because they're new or don't have that experience. But that couldn't be further from the truth.
Okay.
The Penn State Bodybuilding Club, we are open to anyone of any fitness level. You don't even have to even go to the gym. Anyone is allowed in our club. It's a community. It's not a bodybuilding team. It's not a fitness team. It's a community.
I hear you. I think that's very inspiring, and I think learning from folks in BBF has been great, because you just end up going to these group workouts and you're like, hey, how do you do this? And they just teach you. They just essentially drill it down to you. I love that. And Austin, you've led a very interesting life. I have had a lot of new things that I've learned over this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the Karthik Gurunathan show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Sweet.